So you're here because you want to find a nanny and you're wondering, is there an immigration program that can help you do that? Or maybe you know that there is an immigration program that can help you bring that magical nanny of your wondrous dreams here to the United States, and you're wondering how to do that. Or maybe you are an aspiring nanny abroad who knows that there's an immigration program that can help you come work for a family in America, and you're wondering what to tell them. Well, if any of those three describe you, or if you're just in the market for a nanny and you haven't even heard of an immigration program that can help, then stick around, because in this video I'm going to show you how to use the H-2B visa to possibly bring a nanny from outside the United States to work for you here. Many families can take advantage of this program, but there are several things that you need to learn. So what follows is an overview of the program, and then after this, there's going to be a multi-part series that's going to go into depth into some of the questions and issues that you might face. And remember, there is an ebook that you can download in this video and all videos having to do with the nannies called the H-2B ebook for bringing a nanny to the United States, and that's available on our website, frontiertech.com. That's the H-2B ebook for nannies. I know, great name. And you can find it in a link in the description of this video, but also on frontiertech.com. Welcome back. My name is Damjan Denoble. This is Law Great, the channel where I give you reliable information to help you make better decisions and avoid costly mistakes on your immigration journey. I am a lawyer that's been working with the H-2B program for 7 years, and I'm part of the Seasonal Employer Alliance, which is this big lobby group in Washington, D.C. that really works on the H-2B visa and tries to get the laws and regulations that kind of govern this program to be better for both employers and employees. And for the past few years, I've been sharing things on this channel. So one of the things that I did first, I believe, in the United States, that I did first, maybe in greater numbers than anybody else, is figured out how to use the H-2B program to help families who need nannies, bring those nannies to the United States. I've done the same for caregivers, and there's going to be a caregiver series. In this video, I want to go into depth on the nanny program. I've done that in some past videos, but this video is new. This is 2022, and I'm filming this at the start of October. And there's been a lot of lessons that I've learned, and I'm trying to make the program better year after year, but I'm also just going all in on nannies. I think this program could really be a novel way for families to bring in lots of nanny help to the United States during a childcare shortage that's really unprecedented in the United States. That's really unprecedented. So I'm going to take you through an overview of the program, kind of the general things you need to know, and then every video after this, and there's going to be a series, so you should subscribe and follow, is going to go into a particular part of what I said. It's going to give you more details. And again, we have this H-2B ebook for nannies that you can download in the link in the description of this video, or you can go to our website for more information. So let's begin. So you want a nanny, right? You've probably looked for a nanny and you can't find one locally, or the kind of nanny you want needs to be culturally specific to you and you can't find that locally. Or maybe you live in a really isolated area. There's no question about finding a nanny locally. You just need to find one somewhere. But in any case, you're probably somebody that works a lot. Maybe you have a spouse or partner and they work too. And it's not a question that you need a nanny, either to get back into your career or to work like you want to in the career that you have. Or maybe it's just you just need a break, you know, and you have young kids and hey, you need a nanny. So you've looked at programs in the immigration space. You've probably seen the J programs for au pair nannies. That's J as in John for the au pair nannies, and that might not be for you, right? There's a limitation on how long the nanny can be with you. You have to have certain things installed in your house. You have to have a separate bedroom, bathroom. They can only work for a certain number of hours. Maybe you've decided that's not for you. And this video is not about that. It's not about the au pair program. Maybe you've looked into a green card for somebody that you think could be a really good nanny and found that, hey, EB3s, EB-3, these green cards for nannies take forever. They take over 2 years and you're not even guaranteed a spot, and it's just a pain, okay? And so you've landed here, which is about the H-2B visa. That's the H-2B. And hopefully everything I'm saying is popping up on this kind of screen here to the side of me. This is about that. The H-2B is a temporary visa program. It's a temporary worker program. The H-2A is for agricultural workers. The H-2B is for non-agricultural workers. It's colloquially known as the unskilled visa program, which is such a misnomer because there's nothing unskilled about the workers that we bringing on the H-2B program. Now, the three categories that are usually talked about for the H-2B program, because this program has four categories, are for seasonal workers, for workers that are here to cover peak load times for employers. So peak load times are times when there's more work during the year than in other parts of the year, or intermittent labor. So this is for employers that have unpredictable labor situations, but they sure as heck have spikes all throughout the year, and they need to make sure they have a temporary workforce that can handle those spikes. Seasonal employers, of course, are employers whose work and business is tied to particular seasons, like landscapers in the northern United States, for example. But there's a fourth category, and that fourth category is called the one-time category. So if you need a worker for a one-time purpose, for example, there's been a hurricane hit your town, sadly, and now you need to rebuild. Maybe employers, construction companies apply for one-time workers that are going to be working on emergency cleanup, emergency rebuilding. Okay, that one-time category is what we use for nannies. This is the category under which we say, well, we have a one-time need a nanny for a period of 1 to 3 years. That's going to help me while my child is really young and can't go to kindergarten, can't go to preschool. And during that time, I need childcare because I need to go to work, or I need to go back to work, or whatever the need may be. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the H-2B temporary worker visa under the one-time category. And we'll talk more about that in other videos. I've already said it's a 1 to 3 year visa, so you can get certified for 1 to 3 years depending on your situation. Not everybody can go for 3, not everybody can go for 1. There's going to be considerations that you want to think about based on which consulate you're even going through about which number you want to apply for, right? Some consulates are really picky, and 3 years might be a stretch if your nanny is from, one of those consulates. 1 year, might be better in those circumstances. On the other hand, some consulates might be really friendly, and 3 years might be okay. You also need to make sure that your nanny that you're going to bring in is meaning he or she is a national of a country on the H-2B country list, which we're going to let go down this screen. And the H-2B country list can be found if you just Google H-2B country list. Okay, not all countries are on that list. And you have to make sure that the person you want to hire is from that list, okay? Now, can you get an exception? For some H-2B occupations, you can. You can't get it for the nanny occupation. Let's just leave it at that. Everybody asks. The answer is you cannot get an exception. You have to be, the nanny has to be from a country that's on that H-2B country list. The next thing is you are applying for a nanny, not like you apply for the au pair program where you're a family and the nanny has to be a good match. No, you are going to be petitioning as an employer. So that means you're either going to be a sole proprietor or an LLC, or in some cases an S corporation, right? I've never done a C corp, right? Maybe that could work. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but sole proprietor generally, LLC generally. So that's something that you have to be able to set up in order to be able to use it. And then you're going to have to use that employer identity to set up things like workforce agency accounts in your home state. You're going to have to register to pay taxes. You're going to be using that to register for any payroll services. You are going to be a full-fledged employer, and that's really important to know because there's a level of commitment that you have to have in order to make the decision to go forward with this program. And again, I'm going to talk about that in further videos, and again, you can download the ebook here to hear more about that particular element. Then there's the element of the nanny themselves. The nanny has to be admissible, able to enter the United States. If they're in the United States, they have to be in status and they have to be eligible to actually adjust status to the H-2B visa. This gets into questions of immigrant intent. It gets into questions of the visas that the nanny might be on. It gets into questions of immigration history of the nanny you're hiring. It gets into questions of your history with that person. In theory, could you bring somebody over that you'd already hired as a nanny? Perhaps. Could you bring somebody over that was your fiance or your family member? Perhaps. But in practice, whenever there's a familiar relation or a relation that's awkward, that really should be going through a different visa, like a fiance, that's going to be heavily scrutinized. And I've seen, or what I suspect, have been people who really should have been going through the fiance process, who really didn't actually want to hire somebody as a nanny, try to go this route, and they have failed miserably, particularly at the Department of State stage. So I would, number one, if I work with you, I really want to know that. And number two, it might not be the best route. This is not a program to get around the restrictions and the wait times in particular of other categories. Now, if somebody is a family member and they legitimately want to be employed as a nanny, then that's perhaps okay, but there's a lot of things that we want to screen for, because I'll tell you right now, the Department of State and USCIS are going to be heavily scrutinizing those applications. I will talk more about that in a separate video, but I just want to kind of flag that here for you. The other thing to keep in mind is that whoever you bring in, that nanny, it can't be somebody that you previously employed, right? And it can't, as a nanny, and you yourself can't have previously employed a nanny. Now, if you employed an au pair, that's okay, that's a different category. If you employed a caregiver or a doula, that's okay, that's a different category. But if you employed a nanny as that sole proprietor at LLC that you're applying with before, even if it's abroad, I've seen hirings abroad rejected, even though they shouldn't be USCIS. But any previous employment of a nanny could be a big negative factor in your ability to get a nanny through this program. That's a question that you want to work through with a lawyer. But I'm just flagging it for you here. There are 3 agencies that you're going to be working with in the H-2B program. And when people apply for au pairs, they're used to working with the sponsoring organization. The sponsoring organization maybe sign a few contracts, and you make sure that you have certain things in place for the au pair, and then the au pair comes. You pay money and the au pair comes. This is not like that. This is a really complex, annoying program. You're going to have to apply for something called the prevailing wage. You're going to have to work with the Department of Labor directly, then the U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services directly, and then the Department of State directly at the consular level. And you're going to have to actually recruit to see if you can hire somebody domestically as a nanny before you're even allowed to go and offer this magical nanny that you might have abroad a job. And if you don't have a nanny in mind, then you also have to work with recruiters to go find that person, and there's going to be limitations on that depending on where you live. Looking at you, California. Oh my God, California makes it hard. But anyhow, this is a really complex process, which takes me to the next point. This process at certain times of the year has lotteries, at certain times it doesn't. There's 2 times of the year that we apply, January 1st and July 1st. January 1st, there's a lottery, and that's for nannies who can start on April 1st or later. July 1st, there's no lottery, but this year it went fast, and so I'd say you got about 2 weeks to get everything in, and that's for nannies who can start in October. So what I always propose to families is just be ready to do a 3-cycle strategy. Okay, the first time you apply for a nanny, there's always kinks to work out in that application. There tend to be. And so even if you apply July 1st of one year, maybe you'll miss the cutoff. Maybe you'll miss the cutoff because there's going to be a lot of back and forth with the Department of Labor. Then you have to apply again in the April cycle, which again is a lottery cycle. This time you don't have a lot of back and forth because you're probably certified from the first cycle. And then if you miss the lottery, you just apply again for that next July 1st year, at which point you definitely get it. I lay all this out again in the ebook, and I'm going to lay this out in the video. It's called the 3-cycle strategy, and it's just something to keep in mind. So generally speaking, if you want to be super safe, you give yourself a year, to get through this program. Otherwise, you got to think in multiple cycles, especially when we talk about applying in the April cycle. We actually want to be thinking, hey, even though I'm applying January 1st, I'm really applying for a nanny that's probably coming in October because the lottery is so loaded for the H-2B program. Again, if some of that doesn't make sense, either go check out other videos on the H-2B that I have on my channel that talk about the lottery, or look for other videos in the series, or wait for them if you're watching this as it comes out, that talks about the H-2B lottery process. And finally, ebook. Okay, the ebook is going to have a lot of this information. So now you find that you can qualify for the program. You figure out how to actually put together the packages you need to apply. You go through all 3 agencies, Department of Labor, USCIS, the consular program. Well, now, and let's say the nanny's coming, now you have to be ready to be an employer. So that means having contracts in place. That means having lodging in place or lodging found for the nanny. That means having your payroll in place. There's so many things that you're going to need. And so this program is really not for people who want to be passive. It's not like an au pair program where the au pair sponsor takes care of everything. You are going to be responsible for every bit of that employer-employee relationship, and that comes with its own hurdles. And so even though this is an opportunity for you, you have to be aware this is going to be quite unlike anything you've probably done if you've never employed people, particularly since this person more likely than not is going to be living with you in your house. I'm going to cover what that means also in a future video. So what I have touched on here is what you have to kind of think about in this program, what it actually is. It's the H-2B visa program, what some of the questions are that you have to think about. I encourage you to check out the Nanny ebook, and I encourage you to stick with me as I cover each one of these things in these videos that are coming up. All right, so stick around, go to the next video, leave your questions in the comments, okay? Subscribe so you know when the next video comes out. And if you have questions and if you know you want to do this program, do contact me at Frontera Tech Law. That's fronteratech.com. We're the best rated firm right now in New Haven, and I can guarantee you that there's few other people in the country, if any, that know how to do this. Thanks so much.